and welcome to B Movie Euphoria's VHS Roulette, episode 2, I guess. This isn't going very well. The last one was really, really hard. That was, oh god, Steven Seagal. I don't think I ever want to see another Steven Seagal film. But that might change. Who knows? Maybe I'll find something that I like of his. Probably not. And then a couple days ago, I watched this Double Take. I picked it up at the thrift store. Again, if you didn't watch the last video, the whole thing with VHS Roulette is you can do it at home. You go to your local thrift store or record store, or anywhere that has tapes, any sort of VHS tapes. And you look through them and try to find something you've never seen, something that looks interesting, and give it a chance. Give it a nice home. And if you don't like it, throw it away. Or go, give it back to Goodwill or whatever. I guess throwing it away is kind of a waste. You don't want the landfills filling up with VHS. I'm sure they have enough already. But that's what I did. I went to Salvation Army. I found actually a couple really good movies. And then I found this one, Double Take. And I was initially interested, not because of the two actors, which Craig Schiffer, he's not really known for a lot of great movies. He did Nightbreed, which was fantastic, and it was filled with good stuff, and they just recently released the director's cut, and that was really good too. And then there's Costas Mandylor, who I don't know if I've ever seen him in a good movie. It's usually just really bad stuff, but you may recognize these guys, you may not. Craig Schiffer was in A River Runs Through It, which it's supposedly a good movie. I would never watch it again personally, just because I can't stand Brad Pitt. I just don't like looking at the guy. I don't even want to watch Inglourious Bastards again because Brad Pitt. But anyway, so I got this, and I saw on the back that it was directed by Mark L. Lester, who, to me, is better known for Class of 1984 and later Class of 1999, his kind of pseudo-sequel to Class of 1984, where the first film was more about teenage rebellion and the state of schools and just anarchy in general. The second one, Class of 1999, was all about pretty much just about high school students fighting against their robot teachers with giant bazooka arms and like chainsaw hands and stuff. It's really, really fucking cool. If you ever want to see a great cyborg high school movie, Class of 1999 is your thing. And there's actually a sequel to it, Class of 1999 2, which I have never seen, but it looks pretty shitty. But there's no way that it could be quite as shitty as this. Double Take is all about a writer. So Craig Schiffer plays a writer with probably the worst fucking haircut I've ever seen on a man. It looks like my middle school haircut, which I hated getting haircuts. So my mom would do it sometimes, and how it looked was awful. It was just parted down the middle, just kind of came down to exactly here, very well combed, and it just looks like the best way I described it was like mid 90s Ellen hair, which it looks great on Ellen, that's fine, but not on Craig Schiffer. It looked fucking ridiculous. It kind of looked like a helmet, but one that went over the ears and, kind of cut out the face. It's just, you can't take him seriously at any moment in the movie because of this fucking hair. This awful, awful hair. Like, I can't imagine somebody looking at Craig Schiffer and being like, "Oh yeah, that's a good look. Yeah, let's film let's film it. Or him looking at himself in like the dailies, or you think the actors get to look at, videos of them performing, their scenes, and you think he would look at himself and see what the fuck. I can't even show you because I mean, there's a tiny picture of him on here, but that actually doesn't look that bad because it's been whooshed around a little bit, but it looks so stupid, and I can't even look at him. But I watched the whole thing because that's kind of the rules. And so he plays a writer, fiction novels, and he's breaking up, or he's divorcing his wife, and it's really pathetic. He lives in his wife's apartment. She's really rich, so she's like slowly kicking him out, and then he somehow gets involved in well, not somehow, he's at a jewelry store picking out some jewelry for a guy who lives in the same apartment building as him, because he has his own apartment too, but he also likes to sleep in her apartment, in his ex-wife's apartment, for whatever reason. But this guy comes over every once in a while and they talk and whatever. So it's this guy's birthday, I think, or maybe he just sold some art because he's an artist. And so Craig Schiffer decides to go and buy his male friend some jewelry, which that makes sense. And so he goes to the jewelry store, and this guy comes in and holds the place up, shoots the place up, and Craig Schiffer almost gets shot, but somehow the guy gets away. And then a couple days later, he's taken to a lineup, and he's shown a few suspects, and they, it's a lineup, and he picks out the guy. He picks out fucking Costas Mandalore, and he's like, that's the guy, that's the dude, he killed him. And so this guy gets put in jail, and then immediately his girlfriend, who I believe is the third name on the box, Bridget Bako, and she kind of looks like, I know she's in some other stuff, I know she's in a lot of stuff, but in this she kind of looks like a Mexican Jennifer Love Hewitt, because I mean, she's portraying a Mexican woman. I'm pretty sure she's Canadian from what I heard, so she's definitely not Mexican, but in this she looks like Mexican Jennifer Love Hewitt. Um, so she plays Costas Mandalore's wife, and she says that he's actually innocent, that he's got a son at home, and how could you do this and everything, blah blah blah. And he's like, well, that's the guy. I mean, I don't forget anything. And then the whole thing goes to trial, and Craig Schiffer, testifies against this guy, and only the cool scene in the movie, I think, happens in the courtroom, where the lawyer is like, "Oh, so you have a good memory?" And then he turns around, turns to the jury, he's like, "What kind of tie am I wearing?" And he describes it perfectly and makes the guy look like an ass. That was kind of funny, but if that's the best scene in your movie, that's not good. That's terrible. Um, but I mean, that was at least funny. And so the guy gets put away. Um, Craig Schiffer goes back to being kind of a shitty writer and living in his ex-wife's apartment. And she comes in. I think he meets up with his ex-wife at a party, and she's like dating some new hot writer, which maybe that was a thing at some point. Maybe it still is a thing where, you know, if you're a hot writer, you just like, date heiresses or something. I don't know. I'm not a writer. But anyway, so a couple days later, he sees Costas Mandalore wearing the same jean jacket that he was in the jewelry heist robbery thing. And he sees him on the street. He's like, oh, shit. Maybe that wasn't the guy. But it's clearly this guy's fucking twin brother or something, because nobody looks exactly like each other. I mean, I know about doppelgangers and everything. It's fine, but it's pretty fucking far-fetched that it would just be some other guy. And so he starts talking to Mexican Jennifer Love Hewitt, and they like she's like, "You have to release my husband. You have to release him. He's innocent." And of course, like he starts like falling for her, but her husband's in jail. You put her husband in jail, and now he's like he's giving her all these like looks like and it's just really gross. You're like, dude, you just put her husband in jail. If her husband is innocent, you're trying to bang this guy's wife, and he's got like a kid at home and everything. And like, who are we supposed to be rooting for? This dickhead who is kind of a loser and not really a great guy, even though he has like great powers of perception and shit because he's a writer. Or Costas Mandalore, who is in prison or whatever. Maybe he is the guy, maybe he isn't. Or this girl who's like, at first she's like, "Oh, get my husband out," and then she just starts making out with Craig Schiffer. I don't know who I'm supposed to care about because there's nobody in here that I care. There was one guy in here that I cared about. So once Craig Schiffer and Mexican Jennifer Love Hewitt goes to the new guy's apartment, the guy that Craig Schiffer sees on the street, they follow him to his apartment, and there's this really like bug-eyed landlord dude that's like, "Hey man," and he points a gun at him, and then he's like, "Oh, it's okay, you can go in the apartment, just give me $20." And so they do, and he was kind of a cool guy, but he gets killed immediately. He was really like creepy looking and like, but he gets killed. And what's another thing? The soundtrack in this is like from a whole other movie. It's from a movie that wasn't meant to go straight to video. It's like an orchestra. It actually sounds good. It's not just somebody's like piano or somebody's keyboard or whatever. It's a whole orchestra. So I'm pretty sure they stole it from another movie and it wasn't meant for this film. But okay, moving on. So it turns out that the whole thing, I'm sorry if I'm going to ruin it for you, but I fucking am, because I don't want you to see this. I'm not going to. Even if you like Craig Schiffer, or you like Costas Mandalore, or you like Bridget Bako, you're not going to like this movie. I'm sorry. Even if you like Mark Lester, and he's made some really decent movies, you're not going to like this. This is not good. This is terrible. What happened? So, you figure out throughout the movie that it was all a fucking scam to get Craig Schiffer's money. He doesn't have any money. He's a shit writer, and he just ran out of money. He's divorcing his heiress wife, but he's not getting any money from that either. But so the whole thing was a setup. The jewelry heist, the first Costas Mandalore going to prison, the second Costas Mandalore kind of like acting all creepy and everything. It was all a setup to get money from him. It doesn't make any sense at all. No sense. It's phone's ringing. But it's disappointing. And I was bummed. At the end of the movie, something even stupider happens. Like, so what happens? They end up blackmailing Craig Schiffer because he stupidly puts his hands on the murder weapon because the jewelry store guy gets murdered. And he puts his hand on the fucking thing, and then he leaves it somewhere. So they get their hands on this gun, which I guess was the plan all along, which seems like a really rickety plan. And then they blackmail him for like $250,000, and he borrows it from his ex-wife, and she's like, "Okay, whatever, that's fine." Huh? So he takes it to the drop off point, and all this crap happens. Uh, the free Mandalore gets killed and shot. I don't care. And he finds out that Bridget Bako, this girl, he finds out that she was in on the whole thing. And then in the end, after everything's said and done, and there's this big, like, kind of big shootout in a library, he just gives her the money and he says, "Oh, have a great life." Why? Why are you giving her the money? She's screwing with you this whole time. Are you that desperate for a date? Like, you could go on Match.com or go to a fucking bar and pick somebody up. This girl was trying to screw you out of all this money. She wasn't being forced at any point. She was just fucking straight up lying to you about being, the wife of this wrongfully accused guy. She was lying. They're all lying. And then you just give her. So basically, the whole movie is the plot of the movie is a washed up writer gets conned, and he gives a lady $250,000 of his ex-wife's money. And then in the end, like, she comes back and he's got a new book. He wrote a book called Double Take based on all this bullshit that happened to him that isn't fucking even interesting enough for a movie. And then she comes in the door and she has a different haircut, Bridget Bako, and she's like, "You forgive me?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's go get coffee." And that's the end of the fucking movie. That's not a good. Oh, it's terrible. I'm seriously rethinking this VHS roulette because that's 2 movies in a row that just made me want to smash the VHS. I'll keep doing it, but this one, the next one better be good because my God, that was so horrible. Anyway, thank you for watching VHS Roulette Part 2. And tune in for the next one. Thank you.